The new parents, Bindusar and Shubhrangi, named their child Ashok.
King Bindusar must have been blessed to give birth to a son, according to the prophecy of Buddha himself.
Had this been the case, Ashok lacked the quality of being handsome. Because of this, his brothers received more love and favor from their father than he ever did. This dearth of love led to rage. Ashok grew up as an aggrieved child, and this feeling intensified with time into a strong, violent streak. In order to keep him away from Patliputra, his father deputed him as the governor of Ujjain. The love that Ashok never received from his father, he finally gained from Devi, the daughter of a moneylender in the city of Vidisha. After marrying Devi, though Ashok was preoccupied with domestic and work life, their moments of true happiness were not meant to last long. Sometime later, there broke a revolt in Takshashila against the Maurya Empire. When Ashoka's brother Susin failed to suppress the rebellion, Bindusar directed Ashok to travel from Ujjain to Takshashila and suppress the uprising. Ashok counteracted the uprising with brutal force and successfully crushed it. However, his thirst for violence remained unquenched. Following his victory at Takshashila, Ashok headed to Patliputra instead of Ujjain because he desired the throne of Patliputra. One by one, he murdered his brothers till he established a stronghold over Patliputra. This family conflict also took his father, Bindusar's life. Tyrannical and domineering, Ashok began looking for opportunities to fulfill his violent urges. In the 8 years of his coronation as king, Ashok, intending to expand his reign, waged a wrathful war against Kalinga. Lakhs of people lost their lives or were maimed for life in this gruesome event. The land of Kalinga was stained bloody red. However, witnessing the death of countless warriors and painful screams of soldiers, the heart-rending weeping of mothers and thousands of widows, the wails of orphan children, melted Ashok's heart. Ashok was filled with compassion. He remembered Devi. He remembered Buddha, a picture of compassion and harmony. He knew that while he could never change the outcome of the war, he could alter his path. In that moment, he made a vow.
What have I done? I am the cause of this mass destruction. From this day on, the bugle will not serve as the herald of war within the Maurya Empire, but as the mellifluous music of Dhamma. I will serve my peasants.
I will choose the path of Dhamma. And so Ashok chose his new sacrosanct path, and the journey that he embarked upon had room only for creation, no destruction. Ashok's journey in the direction of Dhamma had begun. Accompanied by Upagupta, he visited Lumbini, the place where the Buddha was born, Bodh Gaya, where Buddha attained enlightenment, and Sarnath, where Buddha promulgated the Dharmachakra. For many years, Buddha stayed in Jetwan in Shravasti and also visited Kushinagar, where Buddha attained enlightenment. Then, a thought occurred to Ashok.
I have had the privilege of visiting the stupa at Kushinagar, which holds the mortal remains of Buddha. But how can my country, my kingdom, do the same? How do I convince mankind that it is not possible to attain Nirvana in this lifetime?
Ashok decided to transform the face of the earth in the image of Buddha and built several stupas to spread the word of Dhamma. Through peaceful means, Ashok secured the cooperation of other kingdoms to divide and preserve the remains of the Buddha. He had made 84,000 small boxes of gold, silver, precious gemstones and crystals to hold the sacred remains of the Buddha. These were then placed inside urns with scrolls containing written script. From the day all 84,000 stupas were completed, Ashok began to be recognized as the Dharmaraj. The once barbaric, bloodthirsty and brutal man was now Dhamma Ashok. Vartaman, while Buddha's remains reached every corner of the country, it is almost certain they reached Sanchi too. Dhamma Ashok's heart was at Desnagar. The mother of his dear children, Mahendra and Sanghamitra, his wife Devi, spent her time in veneration of the Buddha, the Sangha and the Dhamma, like an ascetic, like a monk. This is why this spot was chosen to construct the stupa in Sanchi. While Devi had a monastery built for monks, Ashok erected a stupa made of bricks. Along with a 42 feet high Ashok's thumb or pillar, this pillar was identical to the one at Sarnath. On this pillar was inscribed Ashok's edict in Brahmi script that contained directives for male and female monks. It tremendous sacrifices. Imagine what a woman she must have been to convert her own son, Mahendra, who possessed great potential to become the ruler of India, and her own daughter, Sanghamitra, into monks at the age of 20 and 18 years respectively. The remains and memorabilia of the Buddha travelled across the length and breadth of the land with Mahendra and Sanghamitra. When all this was happening, it was inevitable that the Buddha's first and second chief exponents would come here.
First, whose tale are you recounting now at the house?
I offer my obeisance at the feet of those persons whose mortal remains lie safe in stupa number 3. These are Sariput and Maud. Their families lived in harmony and camaraderie for generations. They were both born on the same day. Together they went forth on their paths under the guidance of Sanjay Vilaktiput. However, feeling discontent with his philosophy, together they turned to the Buddha. Even though in age both of them were older than the Buddha, they turned out to become his primary disciples. It was only after 7 years since the Buddha left home that he visited Kapilavastu with his monks on the insistence of his father, Shuddhodhan. He stayed in a grove of banyan trees outside the city. On his father's directive, when the Buddha went to meet Yashodhara, he was accompanied by Sariput and Maud.
Monks, I am free of bonds, but not Yashodhara. She has not seen me in years. So, if in an outburst of emotions she touches me, do not restrain her. Remain calm. Allow her to conduct herself any way she likes.
On one hand, there stood the liberated, detached, dispassionate Buddha, and on the other, his wife, Yashodhara, drowning in a well of tears. On one hand, the Buddha with compassion in his mind towards all of humanity, and on the other, Yashodhara, concerned only with her own suffering. Witnessing the spectacle from a corner was Sariput and Maud. Who could capture this moment into a tear-soaked, tragic epic poem? When the Buddha began to return from his meeting with Yashodhara, she sent their son Rahul to ask for his inheritance. 7-year-old Rahul set a foot after his father.
Father, where is my inheritance? Father, I want my inheritance.
Sariput, my son asks for his inheritance. I cannot give him ephemeral possessions that inflict only worries and causes suffering. Instead, I can grant him the inheritance of a virtuous life. Initiate Rahul into the path of Dhamma.
Path of Dhamma as his inheritance. Nobody else could emulate the Buddha the way they both did. In their minds, vows and actions, they both had truly become the Buddha. When it was time for Sariput to attain nirvana after death, even at that time he was concerned about the well-being of others. He went to his mother who had given him birth, and while showing her the path of Dhamma, ascended into the eternal light. This separation from his close friend put the great Madhgalyayan in a painful state of mind, but not for long. However, it is not possible to attain nirvana without settling the accounts for our cumulative actions. The fruits born of his violent acts in his previous life landed at Madhgalyayan's door, and with patience and compassion he accepted his fate. 7 days since Sariput's nirvana, the great Madhgalyayan too found his liberation from the bondage of karma. I still remember that scene when the Buddha took Sariput's sacred mortal remains in his hands and said to his group of monks,
Monks, look, behold the essence of this illustrious being. Exalt the ascetic, Sariput, who is free from all bondage and has attained nirvana. He was as forgiving as the earth. He felt no anger. Desire could never tempt him. He was kind and sympathetic. He attained nirvana by practicing compassion. Honor the enlightened Sariput.
Safely inside a temple in Sri Lanka, where they are displayed once a year.
Itihas. Does this mean that stupas were built in banyan groves to glorify the mortal remains of Dhamma leaders Sariput and Madhgalyayan? And these two travelled far and wide like Lord Buddha's remains?
You are correct, Vardhaman. This was also achieved through Ashoka. However, the fact that the remains of these two monks rest at Sanchi got lost somewhere in history and came to light only after many years. During Ashoka's time, a huge stupa of bricks was built here. Devotees from Vidisha and neighboring areas traveled to pay their respects at the stupas for many years. One day, the commander of the Mauryan Empire's forces, Pushyamitra Shunga, treacherously murdered Brihadratha, the last Mauryan king. This brought on the fall of the Maurya dynasty and the rise of the Shunga clan. The people of the Shunga clan were followers of the Vedic religion. The sounds of Vedas began to resonate all over the kingdom. In the midst of this, a malicious disbeliever of the Buddha desecrated the stupa. This is the country where Dhamma Ashoka had proclaimed his edicts, that we must not respect merely our own religion, but those of others as well. It is here that it is said that in every way, in every circumstance, we must honor other religious groups. Then how could somebody carry out such a spiteful act in this holy place? This is deplorable. It is disgraceful that someone should desecrate any religious monument.
What happened then, Itihas?
In the time of Pushyamitra's son, Agnimitra, who was then the governor of Vidisha, the stupa was repaired. It was rebuilt twice its original size and covered securely with stone tiles. After the Shung dynasty, during the era of the Satavahanas, in the century before Christ, 4 arched doorways were built facing all 4 directions, in addition to a platform running all along the side of the stupa. Inscribed on the arched doorways was the story of the Buddha, his birth and life-changing historical events, and the history and narrative of the Dhamma following his life chiseled artfully across the surfaces. They depict Ashok's visit to the Bodhi tree and his exile. The interesting thing to note is that instead of portraying the Buddha on these arched doorways in the form of an idol, he is represented through the imagery of a throne, chakra, and other symbols. While the Gupta emperors were followers of the Vaishnava religion, Sanchi and art prospered during their rule. During the Gupta era, several temples and monasteries were also built around the stupa. In fact, this construction of temples and monasteries continued from the 7th to the 12th century, while the Vedic religion and the Buddha's Dhamma flourished together. Empires came and went. However, Sanchi remained unaffected by changing politics and continued to prosper. After the 14th century, Sanchi was deserted. It came into light only in the year 1818, when General Taylor discovered the famous shrines at Sanchi. Once Sanchi was drawn into the limelight, it became a land ravaged by treasure-hungry thieves and eager but unskilled archaeologists. As a result of this plundering of archaeological relics and treasures hidden inside the stupas, they suffered great damage. The mass excavation conducted in a hurry by Sir Alexander Cunningham and Captain F.C. Macy in 1851 also aided in the vandalization and loot of the stupas. However, they were successful in recovering the small boxes containing the remains from stupas 2 and 3. On the cover of 2 boxes recovered from stupa 3 read tiny inscriptions. The box that had faced the south read Sariputtas, that is, of Sariputta. And the one that faced the north read Modgalyayans, meaning of Modgalyayan.
Oh, you mean that it was through these inscriptions that the world learned about the remains of Sariput and
bound together since birth, whether it was in life, nirvana after death, or the final rest within the stupa. Even here, they were placed on the right and left, just like how they stood on Buddha's right and left side. Sariput and Modgalyayan's remains were found in the same placement at the stupa in Satadhar near Sanchi. From 1912 to 1918, Sir John Marshall worked tirelessly to systematically excavate the stupas and monasteries and bring them into light, to render them a coeval quality.
Itihas. But weren't there temples here along with the stupas?
A temple also illuminates the path to religion and spirituality, Bhagavan. Honoring each other's religion is the true mark of tolerance. Today, there are about 50 monuments in Sanchi, including the 3 stupas, that dwell in the myriad snippets of history, great communion and tolerance. And this is the path of Sanchi and India. My work is done. I must return, Bhagavan, to the place where the Buddha, his great generals, Sariputta and Modgalyayan, and Buddha's male and female devotees of the Dhamma have left their footprints in the sand of time. This is my message for you, and for all those who can hear my voice. You are all the inheritors of the sacred tradition of the Buddha, his Sangha, and the Dhamma. You decide if you want to choose the path strung with unkindness, discord, suffering, and conflict, or the one decorated with the presence of Buddha teaching love, compassion, and the path to Nirvana. How you create your world is entirely in your hands. And so, delivering the message of peace and camaraderie, it has departed. Our tale too has reached its end. The great responsibility that it has placed on the shoulders of Vardhaman, we will have to carry out together as one. At the conclusion of this program, we wish that you endeavor to keep your life entwined with the gentle path of love. Presented to you by the Madhya Pradesh Tourism Department.